I'm Merle Cassell from Los Coyotes Indian Reservation, and I'm very grateful and honored to be here. I'm real grateful to live the life that I lived and experience the things that I experienced, so that allows me to be here. I've been clean and sober for 31 years, and I was a drug and alcohol counselor for 16 years. I did suicide interventions and crisis intervention, and a lot of education behind that. And I'm real grateful for the people that are here that are helping us pull this off. Jim and I are not real good at podcasts, so if we make any mistakes, cut us some slack if you don't mind. But for those that are listening, this could get really heavy. We're going to be talking about suicide, maybe suicide attempts, maybe suicide ideation. We don't know yet because we're live and we're raw, and we'll dig right into it. So if any of that makes you uncomfortable, or the horrors of substance abuse, because it's just not about being drunk or being high. It's about the destruction that goes with it. So if any of that makes you uncomfortable, maybe you could come back another time or prepare a little bit better to listen, just for your own well-being, because these topics can get really heavy. And my friend Jim Hornsby over here, he is going to introduce himself.
So I'm Jim, and I'm glad to be here. I want to thank you all especially for having us come here. I'm glad the word sacred was used, because I've been going to the Sacred Inipi ceremony with this man since 1999. I lived on Paula for 3 years, and then I worked for Indian Health for 3 years with Merle. While he was working with alcohol and drug problems with people, I was in the Peace Between Partners program with Big Jack. He was my boss, and we helped women that were in domestic violence problems get safe houses and get restraining orders. And we also work with sexual assault victims and help them with sexual assault recovery. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist since 1982, and I worked in treatment until 1987 with alcohol and drugs, and then for private practice for 12 years before I moved to Indian Health Council. And so I really like how Merle has introduced this, to talk to you about how this is very sensitive, and that we're here to help you find other choices rather than hurting yourself or killing yourself. Thanks for introducing me.
Good. Thank you, Jim. And also, something we want to practice here is demonstrating how to allow people dignity, the dignity to own their story and tell it, and maybe not so much re-experience it, but just tell their story, because they're very important. And so do we want to go into a little bit about what suicide is, what substance abuse is?
Yes, please.
You want to start with one, Jim? Your pick?
Yeah, I guess I started with stealing my mother's whiskey under the kitchen sink, and I ended up in Vietnam overdosing on opium and marijuana, and almost drowning. I fell into a mud puddle. It was monsoon, and that night they carried me back to the ship over their shoulders, and I puked blood on my pillow all night long. And I got through ship's work, and I went out and did it all over again. And it's a physical allergy and a mental obsession. And in my case, I found out that I had 5 granduncles. My grandmother's 5 brothers all died from their drinking, and none of them lived to be older than 52. And I'm 73 now, with 40 years of sobriety, 40 years and 16 days. And there is a way to get help if you have an alcohol and drug problem. And we hope we'll have some resources we'll be able to talk about during the show. But I'd like to send this over to Merle now, because he has some things to say about suicide.
Good one. Thank you, Jim. Excuse me. Suicide is it's a fascinating thing. Well, I'll put it that way, because there's different levels, different types, and a good tool for people that are working with people that are suicidal or have suicidal ideation is CPR. Current suicide plan, past, and resources. So you want to listen to people's stories about when they first started thinking about suicide, how serious they were, if they have a method, if they have the tools to pull it off. Have they actually tried those things before, or are they just thinking about it? Because most of us think about suicide at one point or another, because it's hard to be a human being. It's really hard to be a human being, especially when you're small, adolescent, teenager, young adult, older adult. A lot of people that age out in their work, their careers, they get suicidal. A lot of suicides there. Males are the highest population for suicide. They tend to shoot themselves in the head. And with this population here, they're in the high-risk group. Teenagers to around 30, 25, 30, depending on who you talk to. They're the highest number of suicides in men 65 and older that are that suicide a lot, and for those reasons that I just mentioned. And if you're thinking about it, that's something that's it's almost healthy. If you're reaching out for help and you're talking about it, that's a healthy thing to do. Most people that are seriously, if their suicide is very lethal and very planned out, and they have a method, just before they do it, they oftentimes get real happy because they've made a decision, and they're not struggling anymore. They have a way out, and they start giving things away. They start saying goodbye to people. And a lot of times they just don't come up and say goodbye. They talk to you and give you clues about what they're doing. So listening, helping people, listening is the primary ingredient. Listening to what people are saying and doing, and the little inflections that float across their face. The things they do with their hands. And I was thinking about people that have, and it's a sad thing. And it's okay to be sad. It's okay to talk about this stuff, whether you're crying or laughing or angry. Whatever the circumstance is okay. That's why in the beginning I said that we're live and we're raw, and we'll go wherever it needs to go. And so will I. And so will Jim. So, I've had people suicide, and I felt responsible for it, because at the time I didn't know that's their decision. That's their decision, not mine. So no matter how effective I am, if someone wants to end their life, they can. And it's a very sad thing. So you want to add anything to that, Jim?
Yeah, I think you're really touching on the pulse of this. In my experience, in my private practice, or in my personal life, there's a part of the people that are desperate, that are hopeless and suicide, that there's a part of them that wants to die, but there's a part of them that wants to live as well. There's a battle. And so our job is to listen to the part that wants to die, but also let them know there's a part that wants to live as well, and that we can help them win that battle to live. I think it's really important to mention the history in Indian country in San Diego County, with how the children in the early 1900s were taken from their homes and put in the school in Riverside. And the job for those teachers in those schools was to kill the Indian and save the white man in the child. So those children were abused. Their parents were told they were going to come home for summertime, but those children were leased out to white families as servants. And there was sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse that happened, and they came home 18 years later. And that's where a lot of this history comes from, especially with alcohol and drugs, but also with suicide.
Right. That's a good one. And I'm glad Jim really touched on the last part of the CPR part, the resources. You know, things that can help people stay alive. Their girlfriend, their boyfriend, their pets, their activities in school, their activities at work. There's something that they have that has meaning and value with them, and they forget, you know, because the pain is so great. So you really want to chase those resources and connect them to them and get commitments and write contracts and do whatever you got to do to help somebody. It can become very involved and should be, because it's lethal. So, and substance abuse from my end is, it's a disease of perception. You know, I see the world as a frustrating place. They don't appreciate me. They're always talking me down. They don't value my abilities. And I'm perceiving this on my own without asking any questions. And so I drink at that, and I feel better. It changes my perception. Oh, they're not so bad after all. She's not so bad. He's not so bad. Parents are not so bad. And then when it wears off, we go right back to that hopeless state again. So they talk about people, and like in Alcoholics Anonymous, they talk about people have recovered. And a lot of people misunderstand that. And all it's simply saying is that you've recovered from a hopeless state of mind. And that's hopefully the message that we bring today, that there is hope. And there's something bigger than hope, something bigger than faith. There's creation. And it's a huge, powerful thing that if you can help people tap into that. And the easiest way to do it is to get up in the morning and look to the east when it's still gray, and you see your mountains and trees and hills, and there's a path that begins there, and you can get on it. And you get on alone, and you fall alone, but you're moving towards health and well-being. And we can get into more of that later, but there's lots of ways to create hope and purpose for people, and to help people recognize their meaning. Meaning is tremendous for human beings.
I have something that I'd like to add too. Yeah. You know, learning your language is so important, and so much of that has been lost. And so when Murli's talking about these resources, your cultural resources are very important too. I've been praying with him since 1999 in the Sweat Lodge. And because I was, living on Paula Reservation and working on Rincon Reservation, I got to go to a bear dance. And I met a man at the bear dance who was a Chumash. And next thing I know, 3 months later, I'm adopted into the Chumash tribe. And the Chumash have a certain prayer, and it sounds like this. Li'ia kokichwan, ahash is cho, hotwe maipe, hotwe alakoi maipe, hotwe kankanut mawa, he kantik tok skonin, sutich wowok, ipno alk no nakai chipi. So when I pray in English, it's good. But when I pray in my adopted language, I can say what I just said to you is, you are my brothers and sisters. I wish you good spirits. I ask the Kankanut Mawa, the mystery behind the sun, to guide you and protect you. And if you're drowning in your problems, I ask the dolphin to come to you and help you keep your head above water. You know, being raised a Catholic, we didn't have prayers like that. And these Indian prayers that you'll learn in your own language can make a difference between life and death.
Good one, thank you. And maybe you're someone that has no belief in that at all. Mm. And that's equally valuable. You know, people that are agnostic or atheist, they're more intellectual. And that's all well and fine if you're connected to intellectual people. You know, we're social creatures, so we need interaction with other people. Suicidality, substance abuse, trauma, all of those things are isolating entities. You know, they They put us in our head in the dark. And all life comes from the dark. So we better know what kind of life we're choosing when we go there. And so if you pray or don't pray, I value both. I respect both. You know, I'm personally a person that prays a lot, but I was raised that way. So it's just part of my life. It's something that I've experienced since I was 3 years old. So, and if you're not, that's okay. That's okay. You know, we can still have a conversation. So, do we want to look at one of the videos?
Yeah.
That way, give us a little more substance to work with.
Yeah, and you can lead us into that. You can let the audience know, hey, we're going to play some videos here. We'll be right back.
Okay. For those of you in the audience, we're going to play some videos, and I'm not sure if you get to see them or just we do. They get to see them. Okay, so we're all going to watch some videos, and we'll go from there. And thank you for tuning in with us. I know it's not an easy thing to do. Well, it's not for me. I can sit in the dirt really good, but working a computer is not my expertise. So here we go.
I'm Lester Piper Fredericks. I'm from San Isabel, and that's where I'm from. So I'm Lester Piper Fredericks. I'm from San. I'm Lester Piper Fredericks. I'm from San Isabel, and that's where I'm from. So I've seen like a little bit like of crazy things. Like I've seen a few needles before, like not like by like person like given to me, but like on the floor around somewhere. So that was kind of alarming just to know like that if a kid could just go wander around and then get poked, that could cause some trouble.
Sure.
But from there, it's just like some people can't hold the liquor and they kind of drink a lot more than others. And they get a little rowdy, but not around for the ending of that. So that's what I think on it. The other thing is like sometimes like it just a lot of what's called trash. If like a party was on and then like it would just leave trash all over, and no one picking up and stuff.
Have you heard about people dying from fentanyl overdoses?
A lot of people, yeah. Not just natives, like everyone, really. What I would say is like, if you were to do it, it would bite you back in the long run or in the short term. But I'd probably give some facts about like how dangerous it really is and how you can die and all that just from trying to have fun. Like some things are like fun as a risk, like if you were gonna jump into a pool or something, but like that is just a different side of just a risk. That if you got like one taste of it and then like years later after you cleaned up, you get accidentally get another taste of it, you can get hooked right back into the old ways that you had. It's hard on the kid, I think. Like it's very hard. Just because like that, they know their parent would rather go do that than be with them and take care of them in a way. And then you would have to have the family having to worry for that kid. That way he doesn't go in the ways that the parents are going, because the parents are kind of a role model. And whatever the parents do, the kids might do. And like that would be like the worry of the family, is just try to get that kid away from that path and stay clear and clean. I guess you would have to use like kind of like willpower in a way. Like make sure you kind of like think before you do.
Hello, I'm Anthony Stoltz. I'm 16 and I'm from the San Isabel Reservation. I've seen firsthand what substance abuse can do to people and how it can negatively impact their lives greatly. It's extremely lethal. It only takes a really small amount to kill a full-grown person. And it's usually put into a lot of drugs now. I don't exactly know all about it, but I do know of people who have passed from it, and I have heard a lot about it. I believe it's a very serious situation, and obviously drug abuse within our tribal communities are very serious issues. And fentanyl, I've heard of, just hearing about it, I've heard many people passing from fentanyl, overdosing and dying. I've been to funerals for people I didn't even know who have passed from fentanyl overdoses, thinking they were doing things like oxys, but then, having fentanyl in it and then, overdosing. I would say to the people who are willingly going out and trying to get high and do all these things, that it's not worth it in the end. We're really young, even older adults, older adults, younger children shouldn't be doing drugs regardless. They tear apart families, they damage your mental and physical health severely. When I see it, I've seen it, firsthand, not only within the tribal community. I have non-tribal friends as well. I've seen them grow into addictions, and it's really heartbreaking to see. And, especially with our tribal communities, people within our community, family members who are dependent on drugs, it's heartbreaking to see. And in the long-term run, it doesn't do any good, because, it takes a very large toll on your body and your mental health. And ultimately, an addiction will lead you to death unless you get help for it. So it's damaging to a community because having our people be addicted and, dependent on drugs is very heartbreaking to see. And it does tear our community apart, even though we aren't, all of us aren't exactly super close and we don't all exactly know each other's stories. It does hurt everyone else to see another tribal member being so deep into addiction and being in pain and having to deal with the struggle of being addicted. And it gives those people who are addicted a bad image, even though they aren't bad people at all. It does give the image that they are a bad person or they are too lazy to get help, but that's not the case when it comes to addiction. Addiction is very hard to overcome, and I have stayed sober. I've had many chances to abuse drugs and alcohol, but I've decided to stay sober because I fully understand the impact it makes on families and individuals. And it's honestly a very scary thing, and I would never ever imagine myself doing drugs or alcohol because I've seen many horrible things, and it's not something I would like to experience at all. So that's personally how I've stayed away from drugs and alcohol. I would say if you're thinking about trying any sort of substance or doing it just for fun, maybe once, don't do it. It's not worth it at all. It only takes one time to get hooked, and the first time you do it, it's always going to stay with you, and you're always going to have some sort of dependency on it, because no matter what it is, if it's a cigarette, if it's coke, if it's weed, you're going to have some dependency on it, because you're going to want to chase that high again. So it's not worth it in the end.
And I believe we are back. And we're just going to jump right into it.
Okay.
We're good?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want to start off? Or?
Sure. I want to distinguish between alcoholism and polyabuse, because what we have going on now is the older people usually have an alcohol-only problem, and the younger people usually are polyabusers, where it's maybe start out with some weed, and then you go to a party and something else is there, so you drink and you do the weed and you do something else. And what I wanted to say before Merle talks is that when you're a polyabuser, in, let's say we have weed and we have alcohol, the weed increases the effect of the alcohol increases the effect of the weed, so it's 1 + 1 = 10. and that moves you quicker into addiction. It takes longer with just alcohol only. Okay.
Yeah, good one. Yeah, I liked what the young people had to say, and I was schooled on how we do this, so I'm looking at you now. I'm used to talking to a room of people and not a camera, so I'm talking to you behind the camera. You know, what I heard those young people talking about was, you know, what can we do other than drugs and alcohol? And that's a simple solution, but it takes a commitment from parents. You know, if there's a parent behind that camera, you know, I'm speaking to you. You know, take the time to go with your kids on the weekend, at after school, after work, go for hikes, go to movies, go to plays, go to the ocean. You know, go out and do things with your kids so they're not being exposed to it. Because in this world, drugs are everywhere. Alcohol is everywhere. They're all over commercials. They're all over movies. They're, you know, you go down to any city, any major town, you know, there's bars, nightclubs, you know, and different varieties. There's cultures within our culture where there's, you know, bars that are full of bikes, you know, Harleys and all that, and young people are attracted to that. There's other places where writers hang out, speakers hang out, actors hang out. All those things are attractive to young people. So if you're at the beach playing with your kids, swimming with your kids, they're not being exposed to that. You know, identifying people as the primary problem in your family because they're drugging and drinking is backwards. You know, the problem is behind that. That is not the problem. So family time is really important. Getting involved in sports, you know, actively, and traveling with your kids and their sports activities. And you know, a lot of us have the time to do that. Not everybody does, but if you don't, connect your kids to a family that does. You know, fill up their time. Time is a big issue. Because if you don't, one of the young men was talking about health issues that come from it. Like for me personally, I have cirrhosis. I have atrial fibrillation, both direct result of substance abuse. I had hepatitis C I got diagnosed in 1995, and it wasn't cured until 3 years ago. So the whole time that I had hepatitis C, it was damaging my liver while I was sober. I was 10 years sober when I found out I had it, and I was almost 30 years sober when I got rid of it, but the damage was already done. So in the last 2 years, I've had major liver surgeries, and you know, I take good care of myself, or I try to, not try. I'm careful of what I eat. I exercise. I take care of myself because those health issues are lethal. You know, that's probably what I'm going to die from. So that's important stuff. And one of the young men mentioned a moral standpoint that people view alcoholism, drug addiction as a moral issue, and it's not. It's a biological issue. You know, heroin addicts are prone to start out with downers. Any kind of pill that's a downer. You know, they get an injury, they take a pill. It's like, oh man, I like that. Other people prefer speed. Other people just prefer the numbing of alcohol. And it all allows you something. So match the benefit of the drug with an activity. That's really good for young people. And the biology is really important, because a lot of people will say that they're not an addict, they're not an alcoholic, and like they have a say over that, and they don't. It depends on your biology. Native Americans they haven't been drinking long enough to have a natural immunity to it. A lot of other races in the world have been drinking alcohol for thousands of years, and they can deal with it better. You know, we can't. And that's a biological issue that you have no control over. Mm-hmm. It's just like somebody that goes into the military, and they're all gung-ho, and everybody's real proud of them, and they they get into the service, they go through their training, they end up in a war, and they go into a firefight, and they're just standing there frozen. You know, maybe they get shot, maybe they don't do anything, just standing there. They're not defending anybody, they're not defending themselves. And it's not because they're a coward. You know, people used to think those people were cowards. It's biology. You know, their brain is flooded with chemicals that doesn't allow them to move, to respond. And addiction is the same way. It's all biology. So we've seen the video. We all seen it. Two young men. You know, let's put those guys to use. You know, let's invite them into our world and take them places so they can speak to other people, because it seems like they could. It's better to hear about recovery and hope from your own kind. That's the beauty of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the most successful treatment program in the world, that you're amongst your own kind. Everybody there has unfounded and ungrounded fears. Everybody there is selfish and self-centered. Everybody there is hopeless and depressed. And, you know, that's why you start out, because that's the end result of addiction. But you're all the same. So there's a power in that. We, our, us is profoundly powerful.
Thank you.
When it's me or you know, that's a real negative thing, because my ego is gonna rule me, and you are not enough. You do not understand. If you only lived my life, you would know why I do what I do. And those are delusions that we tell ourselves, because we live in an I society, in a Western culture that's me. We as Indian people, we're our kind of people, us. We, us, our. If you go to a treatment program that's successful, they talk about we, us, and our, because we're all common. You reach in, you put us all in a paper bag, you reach in and pull one out, there we are. You know, they're just like everybody else in that bag. So those were really good videos that we watched.
And we have another one.
And we have another one, and we are going to... Do you want to add something, Jim, before?
I'd like to add two things.
Okay.
One of the things that Murli talked about, the biology. One of the things I've heard in the very beginning of my sobriety was, I'm a pickle. I used to be a cucumber, but now I'm a pickle. And he said, if you dip a cucumber in the brine long enough, it becomes a pickle. And a pickle would never say, I'm a cucumber. And so what we're talking about is that there's this biology that happens when you continue to drink alcohol or continue to use alcohol and drugs, is that there's a transformation that happens. You cross over the line into addiction and you can't stop. So that's why the man said, I'm a pickle now, and I'm definitely not a cucumber anymore. Second thing I wanted to say is resources are very important. There's a Monday night AA meeting on Paula, on Tuesday night on Palma, on Wednesday night on La Jolla Reservation, on Saturday night on San Isabel, and on Friday night on Recon at the Indian Health Center. You've got help right where you live. You don't have to go into Escondido to go to meetings or go to Temecula. You can go to meetings right on the reservation, and you can go to the AA website in your area, and they'll tell you where those meetings are. Or you can call your tribal hall, because they know where those meetings are, and they can tell you on what nights. And so you can go, like Murli said, you go get in the bag, and you'll be with other people that are just like you, who are living clean and sober, and they have really happy lives.
Good deal. And so now I think we're going to go to another video. I think they call them videos.
And it's about suicide. Okay.
It's about, they're getting it all ready to go.
Okay. Good to go.
And we're ready to go.
I know of people who have died of suicide within our community, but no one exactly close to me. I know of people, names of people, family members of those people, but not exactly very close to me, no. it affects our community greatly because, you know, if anyone loses a life, it's very tragic. And, you know, once a person loses their life, everyone mourns, and it's a very stressful and sad situation. But to know that someone willingly took their life and it could have been avoided at one point makes it even more harmful and more damaging because many people feel as if they should have gone back and done things better. And, you know, when you die, or if someone does commit suicide, to get rid of their pain, they instead pass it on to someone else. So there is a stigma with getting help for mental health issues, and especially with, you know, cases of depression, suicide, anxiety, which are very common within our communities. Some people feel trapped and as if they don't really have anywhere to go or have anyone to talk to, maybe because they're too anxious to tell anyone, or if they are feeling hopeless, or as if they don't matter enough to, you know, get help. But everyone who does deal with a mental health issue does deserve to get help. And obviously, you know, colonization does have a big part within our community's mental health, because intergenerational trauma is definitely a thing, and it does affect our people still to this day. Off the top of my head, at least 5 people who do struggle with mental health issues. And it's a common thing, but it's not talked about a lot. And it definitely needs to be talked about more, since it's a very concerning and dangerous issue within our community. People who are bullied may be going through something at home, which may, you know, make everything worse. And oftentimes people who do bully other people don't understand that the person they are bullying may be going through certain things that they don't know about, and they could be adding more stress or depression into their life. I would like to say that if you are struggling with mental health issues or any sort of mental health crisis, to still know and believe that there is help available. No matter how you may feel, always remember that there is help available, and there are people who are willing to just sit down and talk with you and help you get through things. You know, people at the clinic, people at school, adults at school, friends at school. It is very hard to openly speak about mental health issues, especially your own, but in the long run, it is worth it, because getting help is one of the best things you can do.
Not anyone very close, but like I know of people's like family members or friends that done it or tried. Yeah, in a way, like it'd be different if you do like a little picking around, like April Fool type of thing. But if you just go every day with it, person will either just kind of lose interest and just kind of deal with it and just kind of like lose themselves in a way, or they'll take it to heart. And like they'll just get beaten down until they can't take it. I mean, it's better said than done, because everyone says like, yeah, if you're sad, just come on, blah, 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 and go ask someone for help. But really, those people won't, because they think they'll just like bypass them, like, oh, you're good, you know, and just kind of act like if it was nothing, but really it was something. They know neglect. They don't really know of help, because like if they just get beaten down and no one's been there to like stand them back up or anything, they would just stay there and like go deeper into the void, I guess. Well, like that, if the family knows what goes on in the house, they should try to like not like take them away forcefully or anything, like have them like try to spend the night, a few nights, and like, you know, give them what a person in the family needs, like a love and caring, knowing that someone's there. And like if you're a friend and like you're a close friend and you know, just like that, just remind them that they have a friend. Just tell yourself another day, I guess. Like, it's not much you can put a person in that mindset, and all you can really do is just say like, I'm there if you need it. Even if you think you're alone, you aren't. It's kind of, there's always someone either struggling as bad as you or on the brink of what you're thinking of doing. Like there's some, I would say, like more harsher. Like always try to look at the cup half full, I guess. That's what I would, but always try to look at it half full.
And we're back. Back, right? Yeah, here we are. I'm really impressed with these young men that are speaking here.
I've had a lot of
They're
experience
pretty
with
informed, so
alcohol.
somebody's teaching them, and I just want to honor that and express my gratitude for the people that are reaching out to these young people and reaching out to all people, young, old. You know, it takes us all. We're all in this together. And I like what the one young man said. You know, it's we're lacking love. You know, learn how to love each other. You know, learn the aspects of love: compassion, understanding, support, patience. Sacrifice your time for someone else. That has tremendous meaning. I remember when I was working for Indian Health, and I would go and do activities with kids. They say, "You're getting paid for this, right?" Yeah, yeah, I am. You know, would you be here if you weren't? And I am. I'm there. I'm still there. You know, that 15 years ago was 15 years ago, so we're talking like 30 years here. I'm still here. And that's what people need. They don't need a couple sessions a week. They need support daily. Daily. A lot of cheerleading, a lot of support, because it's hard. One of the major detriments of substance abusing or really considering a suicidal act is the habits, the mental habits, and you know, instead of dealing with my pain, you know, I'll go get a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and it's real exciting, and I forget about that for a minute. And then they go away because, you know, at some point they're going to see there's something different. And so they'll go away. Then you get another one. Then you get another one. And pretty soon 20 years has gone by, and you're just jumping from relationship to relationship to not kill yourself. So those kind of things, mental stories that we tell ourselves, you know, it's going to get better. It's not that bad. Oh, they didn't mean it. You know, we start building framework like that. So when we want to get sober or we want to get past wanting to harm ourselves, taking apart that structure we built takes years. In my experience, it seems to take about 10 years. If you seek a negative activity long enough, it's going to take you 10 years to unwind that. So the sooner we help, the sooner the better. And choose your helper. Allow your family to choose their helper. I know out in this world that we're in here today, in the city that we're in, if you go to a professional for help, you can interview them. You can actually interview them and say, oh, I like that person, I don't. If you don't like them, interview another one. You know, do that several times. You'll find one that you click with, and it becomes easy. You know, it's not a shameful thing. It's not a fearful thing. You know, you're interacting with somebody that you care about. It makes a big difference. I know a lot of times at Indian health clinics, you don't have that option. You get assigned. You know, hopefully they'll hear me say this, and they'll think about changing that. Because people have a right and a dignity to choose who their helper is, not who you tell me is going to help me. Because not everybody can help everybody. I can't. I've been doing this stuff a long time, and there's some people that I don't care for, you know. So the best thing I can do is say, you know what, I know a guy named Jim. He knows a lot about what you're talking about. And allow them their dignity over there. You know, instead of forcing them to do what I say or what I think or what's best for them. That's none of my business. That's why in the beginning here I didn't get into my spirituality. Because that's mine. I grew up that way. I practice that way. but I don't push that on anybody. So a lot of little things like that. This is a two-way street here. You know, as people that want to help other people and people that need help, we have to love and honor and have dignity both ways. Both ways. If you're talking to somebody about how you're going to cure yourself when they're shocked, go somewhere else. You know, because what we tell therapists can be really horrifying. I've went to UCSD. A friend of mine's a professor there, and I went and spoke to his students a number of times, and I tell them my story, and they're shocked. They're horrified, you know, and they start working on their computers, or they start writing things down and drawing pictures because they don't want to hear what I'm saying. You know, and I'm just like you. Me and you are from the same place. I was raped as a kid and wanted to kill myself by the time I was 7 years old. When I was 12, I was taken to a building in San Diego and sold to someone that was going to take me to another country. But because I'm from the res, in a violent family, in a violent environment, I fought my way out of there as a kid. Not everybody has that ability. There's a lot of kids that get taken away and never seen again. So, you know, we're all from the same place. We all have a lot of issues in common, a lot of families in common, and we need to stand up for ourselves. We need to stand up for our kids, our elders, all these people. There's a lot of things going on now that are really, really healthy. So I'm real grateful for that. Going too far here. So it's Jim's turn.
I think it's important. We're doing alcohol and drugs. We're dealing with suicide. And you and I have both seen people drink themselves to death, drug themselves to death, get so drunk, they get in car wrecks and die. And there's a tie-in between the two that's really important for me. And so when we're talking about judgment, inhibition, and memory, when you drink or when you do drug, JIM happens. JIM is a acronym for judgment, inhibition, and memory. It goes right to your cerebral cortex, and so your judgment's all off, your inhibitions are released, and your memory says, maybe I shouldn't drive off that cliff.
Yeah.
All that's gone. And so, you know, what this program is about for me is giving you other choices than that, giving you other places where you can plug into. And so the first thing starts with stopping the alcohol and drugs, and then, you know, the second thing is get help for that if you can't do it on your own. The third thing is find your community that's going to support you. And I was told that 50 years ago, powwows were drunken brawls, and then two of our friends, one was a Pueblo Indian and one was a brother from Rincon, started AA meetings on the reservations. And now powwows, when I go to a powwow, I'm really, really, it's a very sacred thing for me. And when I go out on the intertribals and I dance, I'm also praying. So what we're saying is, when you find your community, and then when the powwows come back, you'll see some of these people that will support you about being at a powwow, not being drunk or not using. Your community will be in front of you, and you won't be lost. And I think that's really important. As far as the suicide goes, when you're able to find that person that you really connect with, like Murley's talking about, you can get into. For example, one client I had, this is 1999, he was beating his wife, and I was asked to call him. He had been through one of our groups, and I was asked to do a follow-up call, and just by talking to him, I found out he was beating his wife because he couldn't read or write. So we sent him to a program to read and write, and he got to read. He learned to read and write, and guess what happened? The violence stopped in his home. And that's what talking to someone will happen. You find out what are some of these underlying issues that have been there since you were a child. or recently. And that you don't have to, you might be in some pain, but you don't have to suffer. That's what this show is all about. You're in pain, that's why you want to hurt yourself or end your life, but you don't have to suffer. And you can talk about your pain and you can have a better life.
Yeah.
We do have one more video. It's
We have one more video.
topics, but you can keep talking and lead into that. It's a young woman from Paula. Yeah, our last video.
Okay, we have one more video, and this time it's a young woman. So this will be good. We get the other perspective. I really like that. So whenever they're ready, we'll go. Here we go.
I've had a lot of experience with alcohol issues, you know, and looking into it. I'm a major in writing and American Indian Studies minor, so I see how it affects the community from a literature standpoint, reading the stories and the tales about boarding school and et cetera. And it's like, I know how it's affected us and I know why. And like picking out things in my own family is really hard. It's like there's death and we can't cope with it in the same way. And other people don't understand. And so you're like, you struggle and people want to drink because it hurts less. But it's not the way you gotta do it. There's a lot of better ways to go for it. We have so many natural remedies in our own community that if you just connect with the people around you, family, everyone here is family, like in some sense, whether you're not related. You could come on from the outside. If you have one friend, they're gonna take you in. It's hard for a lot of people on the Native, like the reservation, to talk about it because there's so much stigma about being Native American. Like, I'm pale, I don't look Native American, but I've been here my entire life. I see how painful it is. I've watched people hurt, I've watched the abuse, I've watched everything. And it's like, you don't even know that you can cure a headache with willow bark. You don't have to drink. There are things in yourself that are stronger than any oppression. We've gone through so much as a people, Native American people. We're still here after true genocide was put on us. We're still standing as a mixed race of people. We have Koopa Days going on, celebrating our culture. And don't do it when you're a kid. You have so much better stuff to do. You don't want to mess with your brain and your body. You need to be here to tell people your stories. And when it comes to suicide, we all are sad and it's hard. I've been through dark places. I mean, I lost 3 grandparents in 6 weeks and they were my support. And then recently during the COVID pandemic, I lost my grandma. She was my only support. I watched my parents fall apart. I watched my sister get sick. I was sick for 8 months in a row. I went through stuff that made me question if it was worth it. Then I remember, I gotta be here. I'm gonna have kids that wanna know the stories about my grandma. I'm gonna have friends that need to know that we, as Native American people with different body types, skin types, sexualities, and beliefs, we're all here. We may have different ideas and different moments where we don't feel like we belong, but we're all connected to the same Mother Earth. We all come from the same place, and there's a reason to stay, whether it's to cause chaos and have fun for a while, or to make the world a better place because we're suffering. There are reservations unlike our own that don't have water. The Navajo Nation doesn't have it, and there are farmers growing crops just like a step away. In the 70s, women were forcibly sterilized. That's not a long time ago. They can't have kids. They can't tell their kids our stories, so we have to do it because we're here. And if you have trouble, talk about it. It's hard and you don't want to admit that you're weak, but it's not weakness. It's strength, because you can admit that you're not okay, and that means you understand that you don't have to be strong to be a good person. And that strength is something that not everybody gets the chance to have. Talk about it. There are people who will listen without judging you, whether it's the clinic or an outside source off the reservation because you don't want your family to know your secrets. Get help for everything, drinking, suicidal thoughts. Just talk about it. Find a friend. Do something because you're loved. Whether you know it, I'm holding love in my heart for you. If you're religious, your God holds love in your heart for you. Your parents, your family, I believe in you. We all do. So keep on. You have someone that's looking up to you, whether it's a little cousin or a sibling. So remember that you're always going to be a role model no matter how bad you're doing. That's all
Good one. Catherine Hubert from Paula. Hubert. Fantastic. I knew it would be way different because men and women are different. You know, we see things, experience things, internalize, verbalize all differently. And that's the way it's supposed to be. So I'm glad that we have that extreme contrast. And I like that her global view of it. You know, it's res life, it's non-res life, it's intergenerational trauma, it's sexual abuse, it's physical abuse, it's domestic violence. All those things contribute to all of this. This is all of us. You know, we're Indian people on Indian reservations in San Diego County. Every family has a history of substance abuse. Every family has a history of suicide. We don't like to admit it a lot of times. We don't like to talk about it. But now we are. Now we are. So, you know, this is fantastic. The young women in this world, in this country, especially on reservation, well, maybe not especially, the abuse that women take, being told what to do, told what to wear, told how to act, told who they can be with, who they can't. You know, just total control. And, you know, they don't have the freedom to evolve as a woman the way that they normally would in a healthy society. And that's another thing, too, is if we somehow created a healthy 5 reservations here, there would still be sad people, there would still be mad people, there would still be confused people. It's human nature. You know, when people get suicidal or start abusing substances, there's a reason. There's a reason. Something is wrong. There's nothing wrong with something being wrong. We as parents, if we want health and well-being for our children, we have to teach it to them. Teach young men how to be men, not how to be dominant, controlling, the rule makers, the police, all these things, the power, you know. That's not a man. Allow women to express themselves. Allow them to express themselves. Take in their nurturing. Take in their loving. And I don't mean it in a sexual way. I'm not saying that at all. You know, but to be cared about by your mother, your sister, your aunt, girls that you grow up with. You know, learn to accept their kindness, their love. That'll change the entire environment profoundly. I really like these young people. I'm a real thinker, and I love when something is working. And I would just like to propose to anybody that's listening, any entity, any tribe, any family, any reservation, I'll commit to a week of a campfire sitting around discussing this with people openly, rawly, with no rules other than one person talks at a time. You know, if it's working, let's do it. Let's continue it. So Jim will have something to offer here.
I wrote this poem in 2002 about the wedding ceremony you did with your sister. And I was wondering if I could read it to our audience. I want to ask you in a good way if I could read it to them.
You're not going to tell them how I tortured them. Go ahead.
This is called He Tied Their Wrists Together, Indian Wedding Ceremony. He told us he was not a medicine man, but he has good, strong love medicine. He told us he was not even trying to practice medicine, long black hair framing ancient Indian skin. He told us he was here to hitch his sister to her Appalachian mountain man. She, beautiful in her burgundy wedding dress, something borrowed. She, lovely in her turquoise squash blossom necklace, something blue. He told us these things standing on Mother Earth soil soaked in ancestors' tears. He told us these things standing against hate, teaching love and respect, in spite of ancestors' blood flowing like rivers through relatives' roots, wisely circled sentinels, standing people, warning against hating oppressors, wisely whispering, disguised as wind, spirit wind, rustling leaves, not allowing enemies any victory, not to hate like them, not to oppress like them, not to fear freedom like them, not to feel disgusted with themselves like them. He told us these things standing where ceremony has stood strong for millennia, 15,000 years. He told us these words of companionship's trials, when your companion is not fun, when there is struggle, when there is hell, and you stay with each other anyway. Weathering storms, enduring lonely silences, not storms of gentle rain, but storms of fierce wind, crashing thunder, lightning strike, trees on fire, no rent roots, charred, foul-smelled storms. Not the silence of sweet balance, smiling meditation, but the silence of angst, muted confusion, call exhausted spiritlessness. No medicine man he, but his words flowered something familiar, something true, something fresh, something ancient deep inside. His words blossomed wisdom. His words soothed, advised, calmed, like cool subterranean river, cleansing, satisfying this journey called companionship. He tied their wrists together with ceremonial cloth, reminding us of commitment and care. He tied their wrists together, sentinel circle watching, two-legged circle praying. He tied their wrists together, reminding us to heal our own wounds, reminding us that sometimes the best we can do is struggle. He tied their wrists together in epi ceremony waiting. They crawled on their hands and knees, bound together at their wrists. Sober red-robed companions entered the womb of Mother Earth, beginning one ceremony, two meanings, matrimony, purification, forever changing our lives. Stone people praying for them in the third round, the sound of stones cooking, the sounds of breath as steam, the sounds of ancients sighing, the sounds of final healing, entering a new way of life to grandfather's sunlight of the Spirit. The sight of two crawling into one light, bound together by ancient ritual, reborn.
Hey now, nice poem. Good one.
That's yours.
Oh,
There's another one about you on the back that I wouldn't want to embarrass you.
thank you. So I'm not sure how much time we have.
Well, we can consider a closing. When we do close, we're going to have Leticia come in, and she'll talk for a moment.
Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Do you want to sit here?
Oh, yeah, we'll get Leticia, but really, if you want to spend a little bit more time talking about wrapping it up here.
Okay. And we're still live, right?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I want to thank you for tuning in with us and listening. It's profoundly important. And, I would like to say that suffering is common. Suffering is necessary. And I believe that is a way of being for humans, because little kids they can be really mean to each other. Fatty, ugly, big teeth. They say mean things to each other. And it helps the other person build character. It's just human nature. So we have to keep in perspective what is healthy and unhealthy, what's poison and what's medicine. Anything can be poison. Anything. Too much attraction to other people, too much eating, too heavy doses. Anything in excess is poison. We have to learn about moderation. So suffering is common. Suffering builds character and strength, helps us appreciate, helps us with our humility and our compassion. A lot of things come from that. And also I want to say that in regards to family time or your personal time to connect to yourself, go sit by a creek and listen to the creek. See what's flowing by in it. See what's living in it. See what's living around it. If that's not your thing, go up and on a pile of rocks and climb around on the rocks. Climb up the rocks, climb down the rocks, look under the rocks. Maybe that's something that will bring you some sense of peace. Go out in a field and lay in the dirt. That's a profound thing to do. The earth will draw it out of you. Go out in the desert. Go to the Borrego Desert. Go to Fish Creek. There's some tremendous, beautiful, beautiful rock formations out there of old, ancient mud that rolled up, and now it's solid stone, and it looks like a, well, you can tell by my stomach, I'm going to say donut. Looks like a donut. And there's earth that's different colors and flowing, and beautiful place to take your kids. And on the way, buy a little book about the dirt and the rocks. Pick them up, taste them, chew on them, scratch them. Have a beautiful day. Have something to eat. Go up in the mountains, walk in the forest, sit under a tree, sit in a tree. Climb up a tree and sit up there. That's what I did. I still do that. I started doing that as a little kid. I still do it. There's lots of things we can do with our families, with our kids, with our partners. And listen. Listen. Suicidality is a human option. It's a human option. So it's not righter or wronger. It's an option. Help us find other options. Help us connect to our pets when we're down. Help us connect to our artwork. Buy some coloring pens, coloring pencils, paint. See if you can paint. See if you can't. Paint anyway. Buy some, get some other like carving tools and carve something. Explore your talents. Everybody has things that they like and dislike. If your kid likes something, nurture it. If they like painting, nurture their painting. If they like to talk, listen. Again, listen. But listening not for something. Not listening for answers or problems. Just listen. Listen intently. Look them in the eye and listen. Then you'll be able to say, I see the little smile on your face. I see a tear coming down. When we were talking about this, I seen your face kind of quiver. Talk about what's going on with both of you and allow them to do the same thing. That's a true connection. That's what we need. That's what we like. And substance abuse is a choice. Suicide is a choice. There are no answers. You're not going to get anybody in this room to give you an answer to life, an answer to your problems. You're not going to go to any clinic, any hospital, anywhere in the world and get an answer. There's only choices. You can choose, and it's a dilemma. If you're unhealthy and you choose health like this, it's going to be uncomfortable. That's just the way it is. If you choose to continue the way you're going, it's going to be uncomfortable. But this uncomfortableness will follow you to your grave or to someone else's grave. This will lead you to health. It's comfortable at first, but it turns into something beautiful. And we're beautiful people, so we deserve a beautiful life. And we have a very talented young lady going to come up as soon as Jim's done with his closing, and she's going to share with us also. Thank you very much.
Suicide is a permanent answer to a temporary problem. A permanent answer to a temporary problem. You just heard my brother talk about how he fought his way out of one instance, and he was able to get help to get out of another situation. So when you get help, you understand that what you're going through is temporary, and so you don't have a permanent solution that ends your life or hurts you. And I think that's my most important message to all of you today. My elders told me, Jim, when we went into new territory, we never killed anybody, we married them. And if the ancestors could come back from 600 years ago and talk to us, they would say, what's all this disrespect for children? What's all this disrespect for women? That's not our way. But remember those boarding schools. Those kids that came back from those boarding schools as 18-year-olds, they were taught hate and ignorance. They were taught violence. They were taught abuse. And that is not the Indian way. And I'm really glad that I got to come here and speak this way. And I'd sure like to hear from my young sister now.
Oh,
And Merle, if you could take it back again, we'll switch to Leticia.
You're on.
Yeah,
Oh.
go ahead, Merle.
I'm on.
You're on.
And Leticia is going to come and talk to us about resources, I believe.
Yes.
And she's very well spoken, obviously, very intelligent woman. And she's going to tune us up here. Thank you.
All right. So, hi everyone. My name is Leticia Ibarra, and I'm with Native Connections at Indian Health Council. And if for some of you who might not be familiar with the Native Connections program, it's a grant-funded project that has been at Indian Health Council for 5 years now, and it's really trying to address and try to provide resources for young people through art and culture and traditions and spirituality. And so with today's program, thank you so much. I think you provided all of that with your commentary and also with the videos from our young people. And I think, and hopefully that's going to be something that's going to be very enriching for those of you who are out there and listening to this program. In terms of art, we actually had started an art contest, and we're going to be continuing that to July 14th. But we actually wanted to give an award to two of the young people who actually went ahead and submitted an artwork. And these were the first two entries that we have gotten into the art contest, and we're going to give them an award for that, for being able to participate, and also because they actually really captured a lot of what was spoken about today in terms of how to prevent suicide and even using drugs, was getting rid of all the negativity by maybe surrounding yourself with good people.
Cool.
Yeah, and this was done by Dazila. And she's only 13 years old, so the fact that she is, our young people are getting it, and hopefully they'll be able to, continue that throughout life and sharing it with other people. And definitely with their art, they're going to get a chance to do that. And then her sister, actually, Desra, she provided this drawing. And again, it's getting rid of these negative thoughts. I think they had kind of a similar idea for both of them, but they're able to kind of present it in a slightly different way. But just being able to share that and how important it is as an option, right, to helping yourself get out of all those negative thoughts.
That's good art, too.
Yeah, I love the colors that they use, too.
Yeah.
And also with the Native Connections program, we do have resources. I invite you to either call IHC. I think most of you have the number. If not, it's actually listed on the site, where the video is shown. And we have books, because again, learning the culture, learning the history of the people here in San Diego County, the Native American history written by Native Americans. And the cultural practices and how, and actually even with, this is kind of one of the books that kind of also inspired, the event today, was, how we just can rediscover our sacredness through, some of the traditions in the community. And just, if you need someone to talk to again and to work through some problems and learn how to, gain that confidence back and just, be able to find, what really fulfills you and makes you happy. We do have some programming in Native Connections. And if at any point you feel like you need professional help, like our colleague here, Indian Health Council does have a behavioral health program as well, so you can actually seek professional counselors there. But thank you again, for all that you've said, all your wisdom. and for sharing your stories with us.
Oh, good one. Thank you. And I like the sacred part keeps coming up. So I just want to end with that, we've been taught by others what sacred means. Not so much from ourselves, from our people. A lot of people pray for something sacred to come into their life. And their daughter, their son is just got this beaming little smile. That's a sacred thing. Going out and sitting in one of those trees and watching a squirrel play with its family. Squirrels like to play a lot. That's a sacred thing. Sitting and being quiet is a sacred thing. We're sacred beings. We don't have to try and be sacred. We are sacred. We just need someone to help us express it. Allow us to smile. Allow us to laugh. Allow us to create. Allow us to share. Allow us to eat things that are interesting things. So I want to thank everybody again, and thank this crew here that puts this on. I'm a little awkward here, so when people talk and they show their stuff, it triggers stuff in my head because I'm not used to this. But I'm willing to come here and do it because I know if you're suicidal or if you're abusing substances, you're going to feel as awkward as I do right now, and it's okay. When you learn to ride a bike, you fall down 100 times. It's okay. It's okay to be inadequate. It's okay to not be enough. It's okay to be human. Thank you all.